The Song of Jackass Creek, written and narrated by Darby Lee Patterson. Prologue. Choker Anderson had been drinking since the afternoon whistle blew at the mill at 5 o'clock. The first hour he'd put down several whiskey shooters, and then moved on to a couple of shots of tequila purchased for him by other guys from the mill who'd heard about the layoffs. By 9 p.m. he'd switched over to nursing a bottle of beer, figuring that if he didn't get home and tell his wife the bad news, she'd hear it from somebody else first, and there'd be hell to pay. Choker wasn't alone. There were about a dozen other guys in the Silver Stag who'd heard they'd soon be out of a job. Each one of them had given years of labor to the sawmill and had families and homes in the tiny mountain community tucked into the folds of Northern California. They all knew there wasn't another job for them within 100 miles, probably more. In the morning, there would be shockwaves running through the town where one main road held all the businesses and a scattering of small homes. Most of the population lived on modest acreage off dirt roads that cut through the pines and rolling hills and scrub oak. They would hear, and they would know that this was only the beginning. More layoffs would come, and the mill, like so many others, would sooner or later be closed down. Redbud would lose its lifeblood and become a community without a soul, home to commuters from the city and transplants from Los Angeles who would never understand the spirit of the mountains. Choker hated the Southern California transplants in particular. They came up the hill with their fancy cars, troubled kids, and something damn few of the locals had, enough money to build 3,000-square-foot homes on 10- and 20-acre parcels. Now, as he sat peering through the amber that bubbled in his glass, he knew he'd be leaving it all to them. The great, naked outcropping of rock that was shaped like the beak of an eagle, the hundreds of miles of fishing streams where wild brown trout played games with lesser, clever men, the towering pines, and the echoing winds. He and his kind would have to leave or settle for welfare. He watched Hardesty, one of the local Toma tribe, take a shot with his pool cue and thought about how at least the Indians wouldn't have to leave. They'd have the Redbud Rancheria and its pitiful government dole. Choker laughed and walked over to Hardesty. He laid his hand on the man's shoulder. "Well, my friend," he said, "looks like they got us again, those folks from the city." "Hey, man, sorry about your job. I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall," Hardesty answered, dropping his head and slowly rubbing the tip of his cue with a stub of chalk. "Heard they're going to announce more layoffs in a couple of weeks. It's screwed, man, really screwed." He squinted down the length of the cue, shot and dropped the ball in a side pocket. "It's a matter of time for all of us." Choker took another swallow of beer and leaned closer to Hardesty, whose family had worked at the mill for longer than anyone could remember. "You see what they're doing, don't you? All those tree huggers from the city passing their so-called environmental laws, and they shut us down, chase us out. You know what's next, Hardesty? They come up here, take over, make bedroom towns. Sound familiar? Haven't your people been through this before?" Hardesty picked up what was left of the chalk and worked it on its cue. He was thinking about an answer when suddenly chairs went flying away from one of the round tables that somebody quickly overturned to make room for the men who were shouting and squaring off to fight. Rita May, owner of the Stag, bolted from behind the bar holding a tire iron in her fist. Choker assessed the situation through his alcoholic haze. It was young Birdsong and the Hazlitt boy, drunk on their butts and ready to break up the place. Choker knew that Rita would handle it no problem. He also knew it was definitely time to be moving on before he did something stupid like smash one of those city boys sipping imported beer at the bar smack in his clean-shaven face. He walked out to the parking lot, looked over the tiny town, and then up at the sky. It was ablaze with stars, the kind you never see in the city. He swore out loud, crawled into his Ford 150 pickup, and headed home. Choker and his family lived about 15 miles from Redbud, 5 miles of which was dirt road that meandered along Jackass Creek and led to his place. There were turnoffs to a smattering of other homes and to a popular camping spot that would be crowded with tourists in a few weeks with the coming of the annual Loggers Jamboree.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?